I found out my husband, Ryan, had been cheating with my sister, Star. You can imagine how that destroyed me. After I divorced him and cut off all contact with my toxic family, things seemed to settle. But life had a twist for me. Let me take you back to where it all started. I'd been married to Ryan for 6 years, and things were great. We had the typical couple issues, but we worked through them and loved each other. Then, about 8 months ago, my sister Star moved back to our hometown. She'd been living in Florida for years, but her long-term boyfriend dumped her and left her with nothing. She was devastated, and the details behind their breakup were pretty shady. Star came back with a story her ex had been cheating on her with men. I didn't know him that well, but I had my doubts. I'd met him maybe 3 times once during Christmas. Once when Ryan and I visited them on vacation, and a few other quick meetings. He just didn't seem like the type to be hiding a secret life. But, of course, I tried to reach out to him. He blocked me. Weird. Right. Star moved in with my parents, Gina and Jimmy, for a bit. She was trying to get back on her feet, and I suggested Ryan might be able to help. He's in a pretty high position at work and could probably pull some strings. He did, and Star ended up getting a job in her field. But here's the thing, Star and I were never that close. She was always the golden child, at least in my mom's eyes. I always felt like the second choice. Growing up, I felt like I was always compared to her. We both got cars at 16. But while I got a hand-me-down Dodge Neon, she got a brand new Mitsubishi Eclipse. She spent thousands on dance competitions and gear, while I had to beg for $50 for sports camps. My sister always got more attention and money. The worst was when I was 17, out with my boyfriend and got home 15 minutes late past curfew. My parents took my car for an entire month, but when Star came home 2 hours late, smelling like pot, she just got a talking to. It was tough, honestly. I wasn't exactly thrilled when Star moved back in. I thought maybe it'd be a chance to get closer. But as time went on, I started noticing something odd. Star and Ryan seemed way too comfortable with each other. They were always talking, sharing inside jokes. Whenever I tried to join in, they'd brush me off, saying it was work stuff. I figured, whatever. Maybe they just had a lot in common. But soon, I realized I was wrong. Star started showing up at our house all the time when I came home from work. Ryan and I have different work schedules. He works 8 to 4:30, while I work 10 to 7. But somehow, Star was always there when I walked in. I asked Ryan about it, and he'd always say, "Oh, we had work stuff to do." It became more frequent, and I began to get this sinking feeling. Then, one day, I noticed something strange. I always make our bed in the morning, and I make sure the pillowcases are facing outward. But when I came home from work that day, the pillows were facing inward. I asked Ryan if he'd been in bed that day. He looked a little nervous but said no. I checked his phone and laptop when he wasn't around, but found nothing. Still, they worked together all day. Hung out after work, no texts, no calls. Why would they need to hide anything? I felt like I was going crazy, doubting my own sanity. A couple of weeks ago, my parents invited us over for dinner. Everything was going fine until I saw something I couldn't ignore. Ryan was just casually walking by when Star reached out and lightly grabbed his arm. He stopped, and she whispered something to him. Then, they touched foreheads. It was so brief, but I saw it. Ryan quickly pulled away and kept walking. Star turned to me, gave me this weird smile, and went back to eating like nothing happened. Now, I'm not an idiot. I saw the red flags, but I didn't want to believe it. I've loved Ryan since I was 21, and the thought of him betraying me with my own sister felt impossible. But as much as I wanted to deny it, deep down I knew something was wrong. So, I planned a weekend getaway with Ryan. I thought, maybe if we had some time alone, I could ask him about everything without the distractions of daily life. I was hoping it wasn't what I feared, but I had to know the truth. We had a great time on Friday night dinner, drinks, dancing, and being intimate. Everything felt normal. But as Saturday morning came, the weight of what I needed to ask him started to sink in. I couldn't wait anymore. I looked him in the eyes and just asked, "Are you having an affair with my sister?" He didn't even try to deny it. He started tearing up, admitting that yes, he had been sleeping with her. My heart shattered. He said it all happened so fast there was a connection, and before he knew it, they were kissing. Then more. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mind was spinning. I asked him if it had happened in our bed. Before I got home from work, he just lowered his head in shame. I didn't know what to do. I was so angry, hurt, and lost. I grabbed my purse, walked out, and left him behind. I drove home, shaking, with nothing but my purse. A few hours later, Ryan showed up with the rest of my things. He tried to apologize, but I couldn't even look at him. My heart felt like it was being ripped apart, and I didn't want to hear it. The next day, I called my parents to tell them. They already knew. They said they were sorry, but they didn't seem too surprised. They told me that Star had left the night before and might not come back for a few days. I didn't need to hear any more. I knew where she was probably with Ryan. That was 3 months ago. And things are moving fast. The divorce is almost final. Ryan found a place to live, and Star moved in with him. I've only been in contact with him for the divorce stuff. At first, he said I could keep the house and the savings. I thought that was just guilt talking. But then, a few days later, he changed his mind. He said we'd have to split the house. I'm sure that was Star whispering in his ear. I had already moved all the money into a new account, so there wasn't even a fight there. Just like that, 9 years of my life were gone. But honestly, I'm glad it's over. Ryan doesn't realize what he's in for. Star is a narcissist, and she's going to toss him aside just like she did with everyone else. But what really hurt was how cruel Star had been through all of this. A few days after everything went down, she tagged me in a Facebook post. It was a picture of her and Ryan, him kissing her on the cheek with a cheesy caption, "Feeling loved." I could feel the anger boiling inside me. I logged out of my Facebook, deleted the app, and didn't look back. An hour later, I got a text from her. "Sorry, sis, didn't mean to tag you. No hard feelings. I hope we can still be close. You'll meet your soulmate someday too." I blocked her immediately. I couldn't even process how heartless she was being. My parents didn't make things any better. They acted like they were sympathetic at first. When I told them, I was going no contact with Star and Ryan. My mom gave me the usual speech, "I'm sorry this happened. But Star deserves to be happy too. You'll meet someone, and we'll put this behind us." I was furious. I told them about the Facebook post, the text message. My mom's response, "Well, you shouldn't be on that stuff anyway." My dad didn't say anything, he just walked out of the room. I couldn't take it anymore. I told them I was cutting them out too. I didn't need anyone in my life who couldn't see how wrong all of this was. So, I'm leaving. The house is selling soon, and I'm moving to another state. I haven't told anyone where or when. They can all deal with their mess. I'm done. It's been 4 years since I last updated everyone, and trust me, things have changed some good. Some, well, not so much. Let me catch you up on my life. First off, I'm engaged, yes. I know it took a lot of therapy to get here. After everything that happened with Ryan and Star, I didn't think I could ever trust anyone again. I tried dating right after I moved, but that was a disaster. I went on one date with a guy who seemed fine, until he turned out to be an unbearable jerk. That made me swear off men completely. I had to work through a lot of pain and trauma and therapy before I was ready to put myself out there again. That's when I met James, 37, male. Yes, he shares the same name as my dad. I'm not kidding. But James is incredible. He's a chef, and he and his twin brother, Jack, own a restaurant and bar that's thriving. I never thought I'd be here engaged, happy, and with a bright future ahead of me, but James is amazing, and I'm so excited for what's to come. Now, about the drama. You won't believe this. It wasn't long after I started my new life that my parents and sister started making noise again. I'd been completely no contact with all of them. I didn't tell anyone where I moved to. But of course, they managed to find out. One day, I came home to find a wedding invitation from none other than Ryan and Star. Can you imagine? The nerve. There was a picture of them hugging in a sunflower field, smiling like everything was perfect. But that wasn't all. Along with the invitation, there was a letter from my parents. It said something like, "We need to forgive and forget. We're family, and families work through problems." They also claimed that Star wanted me to be a bridesmaid, just like I had been for her. I could hardly believe it. That letter brought up so many old wounds. I thought I was done with all of them, but no. They found a way to reopen everything. At first, I didn't respond. But after reading that letter, I felt disgusted. I didn't need closure from them. I didn't need their apology. I had moved on. So, I did the one thing I knew would make me feel better. I cut off anyone who helped them find my address. I didn't care who it was. I wasn't going back to that life. But, of course, the drama didn't stop there. A few weeks later, I get a knock on my door. It's Ryan. He's standing there, looking like he's been working on his "I'm sorry" speech. I didn't even let him get a word out before I asked. "What do you want?" he said. "I just want to talk. I'm so sorry for what I did. Star and I are divorcing now. Turns out, she was cheating on me the whole time." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I thought he'd lost his mind. I just stared at him, and in my head, I was thinking, this guy actually thinks I care. I looked him right in the eye and told him, "No, I give you no closure. You made your own bed. Did you really think she would change for you? She's had more visitors than a hotel. Now you're getting what you deserve. I forgive nothing. I want nothing from you. I'm better off, and that will always be the case. You can go to hell." I shut the door on him and went inside. But he wasn't done. He was still hanging out in the hallway, like some sad puppy, hoping for a second chance. I called my landlady right away. She's the sweetest woman, and she knew my story. I needed backup. She sent her nephews over, and they made it clear to Ryan that he wasn't welcome. If he came back, the police would be involved. I hoped that was the end of it, but nope. Ryan wasn't going down without one last try. A few days later, I went to James's restaurant. It was a slow night, and I was just there to hang out. I didn't expect to see Ryan stroll in. He came over to my table like he owned the place. James saw him immediately and came over to check on me. When he saw Ryan, he asked if he should kick him out. I said, "Not yet. I've got some questions for him." Ryan thought he was winning. I could tell. I asked him, "What happened between you and Star?" He started talking about how she'd been cheating on him with married men, shocker. Right. He even told me how he stuck it out so long with her to hide money, save up, and make sure she didn't get everything. He looked so smug, like he was proud of how he played her. When I asked what happened to her, he just smiled and said, "She had to move back in with your parents. I couldn't hold it in anymore." I said, "Thank you. That's all I needed to know." I turned to James, who stood up and pointed at the door. Ryan, like the coward he was, left quickly, but not without one last comment. He muttered, Yeah, I know. Cops. Trespassing." It was over. I hoped it was for good. Well, here I am again with another update. And honestly, things are looking pretty damn good for me now. I'm 41, am married, and have two beautiful kids, a 6-year-old boy and a 2-year-old. James and I are thriving. We run the restaurant together with his cousin, Samaya, who bought into the business. We opened a second location 3 years ago, and things have been busy but amazing. It's a lot of work, but I finally have the family environment I always wanted. But, of course, the drama never really ends, does it? After the last time Ryan showed up at my apartment, I figured it wouldn't be long before my parents or Star would try to reach out. At first, they didn't, and I thought I might finally be left alone. I even rejoined social media, but I stayed no contact with most of my family, only some friends, and a few cousins knew where I was. Then, a little while later, I got a message. It was from my mom. She sent some half-hearted apology about how she wished things had gone differently and asked about my kids. The nerve. I had no intention of responding. but the mention of my children as her grandkids felt like a slap in the face. So, I sent her a message back. You don't have any grandchildren. I'm not your daughter, and my children have no relation to you. If you want grandchildren, you should encourage Star to get out there and do what she does best. And that was it. I blocked her on everything. She didn't stop, though. She created new accounts and kept sending messages. But I stayed strong, blocking or ignoring each one. I wasn't going back, not for anyone. Then, out of nowhere, Star started reaching out to me. She sent several messages. Nothing too personal, just asking to talk. After a few weeks of her persistent attempts, I agreed to a Zoom meeting. Just me, no kids. When it started, they kept asking to see the kids. I told them right away, no, that's not happening. My children have 3 grandparents, James's family. That's it. As the conversation went on, I started to realize something wasn't right. Star didn't look well. My parents looked older, more tired. And then it all came out. Star had been dealing with serious health issues. Her kidneys were failing, and she needed a transplant. That's why they'd been reaching out, because they wanted me to be the one to save her. They needed me to come back to see if I was a match for the transplant. I didn't hold back. I looked at them and I asked, "So, this is why you're contacting me? You want me to save her? After everything she did to me, my husband wasn't enough. Now, she needs a part of my body to survive." My mom started crying. She begged me, saying everything that had happened was in the past, and I should put it behind me. "She's going to die," my mom said. "Please, just help us." I stayed quiet for a moment. Then my dad jumped in. "We've got problems of our own. We're getting older, and with Star's medical bills, we can't keep up. We need help. We need you to come back to Missouri, get tested, and if you're a match, maybe help us with some of the bills. We might lose the house." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything, they still had the nerve to ask for my help. I said, "Don't put it like that," he replied. "Star asked for this. Please come home. We need you." I told them I'd think about it. I did some research, and when the results came back, I found out that Star and I were a perfect match. So, I agreed to go back to Street Charles. The first didn't tell them anything else. I was just going to see how things played out. By the time I arrived, Star was already in the hospital. She was struggling, and they needed to stabilize her. I had no intention of making this a social visit. I wasn't there for them. Not after all they'd put me through. Star had stabilized by the time I met with the doctors. They went over the process, explaining how rare a perfect match is. The sooner we scheduled the surgery, the better. I walked into Star's room, looked her right in the eyes, and said, "Did you hear that? I'm a perfect match. I'm the only person who can save you. But I'm not going to. You are the most vile, narcissistic piece of trash I've ever known. The one person who could save you, and I'm letting you die. Make peace with that." Star burst into tears. But I didn't care. My parents tried to jump in, but I didn't let them. I turned to them and said, "Don't even talk to me, and don't ever ask me for anything again. The only money I would spend on you would be for your funeral. And when you're cremated, I'll be the one to scatter your ashes straight into the nastiest public restroom I can find." And that was it. I walked out, never looking back. I'm home now, my real home surrounded by my real family. I couldn't be happier.